Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Catherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Catherine Basu, and today on the show, I'm welcoming back yesterday's guest, Alyssa Houtby. If you missed yesterday's episode, you definitely want to go back and check that out. It's the reason I initially asked Alyssa to be on the show. We ended up talking about her running and marathon journey. And when I asked Alyssa to be on the show to talk about those things, she also offered to record today's episode, which is one in which we're going back and talking more about her personal health and fitness journey before running happened, and just kind of some things that she struggled with before finding running and how running has helped a little bit with that. So I'm really excited to continue the story with Alyssa here and hope that having her share her story, especially in the context of all she's accomplished with her running so far, will help inspire you or someone else you know, no matter what you've struggled with in the past in your health and fitness journey, or what big crazy ideas and goals you might have that might seem really far off based on what you've gone through in the past could actually be a reality for you. So Alyssa told me this is something she doesn't always share and hasn't really thought about much the last few years, but that it's something that she thought she would like to share if it might help some of my listeners. So I'm really honored that she chose to do so. Before I do share Alyssa's story with you in more detail, I wanted to just kind of recap a few things from yesterday's episode, because Alyssa just got into running 3 years ago, right after her daughter was born, and she started out with some half marathons. Her first half was one that she ran with her friend, and it was just something she did for fun and doesn't even really know what the time was. And then last year she decided to try her first marathon, and probably most of us, when we're going out for our first marathon, have a goal of finishing that first marathon, and I'm sure that was part of Alyssa's goal, but she actually accomplished a lot more than that. She was able to get her Boston Marathon qualifying time in that race, her first ever marathon. But what's even more impressive is that she actually ran a time that was 20 minutes faster, actually more than 20 minutes faster than what she needed to qualify for Boston. And then in her second marathon, she achieved another goal that people often take years to achieve, which was to get a sub 3-hour marathon. So she ran a sub 3-hour marathon as her second marathon, and she's now actually training and trying to run an Olympic trial qualifying time. So this is impressive because obviously, like I mentioned, these are her first 2 marathons and she's already accomplished so much, but also because she's not a sponsored athlete, she's not running all the time. She is a full-time career woman and mom to a 3-year-old daughter. So just put that into context if you feel like you have excuses or things that are holding you back, whether it's commitments or just mentally you don't think you're capable of doing something or working towards a goal that you have. Alyssa is proof that you can get there. So go back and listen to her episode from yesterday, and today, welcoming Alyssa back, we will be chatting about her journey before she got into running. Alyssa, thanks for coming back to the show and sharing your story today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be.
So basically, I chatted a little bit about this briefly, but everyone should go back and listen to your running and marathon training story and journey. But you also have had a health journey as well, and in the past, you struggled with your weight. So we'd love to have you share that story with our listeners and how you have been able to make some changes for yourself in order to maybe inspire listeners who either have struggled with their weight or did in the past, and that has caused them to not really see themselves potentially as athletes, which is what you've definitely become even after having that different history. So really excited to have you share that journey with us.
I know when you look at me today, or if those who know me now and didn't know me as a child, they're just always shocked to hear this story because it seems like such a stark contrast. But when I was growing up, of course, I was very athletic. It's just my natural build is to be athletic, and I played soccer and basketball, and I did cross country through middle school. So up until I was about 15 years old, I was just a happy, healthy kid running around doing sports and activities. But when I was 15, at the beginning of my sophomore year of high school, my family relocated. And it's funny now looking back because we only moved 45 minutes away. And I actually go back to the original town I grew up in on the Central Coast quite often. But when you're 15 years old and you don't have a driver's license, moving 45 minutes away and going to a new high school is really stressful and challenging. Mm-hmm. So I went from being really involved on a lot of teams and other activities to basically nothing my sophomore year of high school. And emotionally, it was really traumatizing. And I ended up, in hindsight, it's 2020. I don't think I was really aware this was happening at the time. And of course, being so young.
Yeah.
But I ate my feelings, and that combined with no longer being very active, I ended up gaining, I would say, about 80 to 100 pounds. I'm not exactly sure because, as a 15-year-old, you don't weigh yourself very often.
Right,
so,
right.
I don't really know where I started, but knowing that I was, again, really active and healthy, I was probably near or around the weight I am today. And at my heaviest, I was about 100 pounds heavier than I am today. Mm-hmm. So when I was in high school, of course, they make you do your PE classes and the presidential fitness exam. And part of that is being weighed and having your body fat percentage tested. So at some point, the end of my sophomore year, so I'd been in the new town about 9-10 months or so, we did that presidential fitness exam, and they had to get on the scale in front of the gym coach. So there was no hiding it, right? I had to get on the scale, and she was standing right there. She took my number and then took my body fat percentage, and I have no idea what that was. But I got on the scale, and I was 220 pounds. And
hey guys, it's Catherine. That's your halfway point reminder. If you only have 15 minutes, you want to turn around now. Back to you, Alyssa.
It just blew my mind that I had, that was even a possibility. I'm not the tallest person. I sort of have a smaller frame. So 220 pounds is a lot on my body type. Everybody's different. But for me, that was a very unhealthy weight. It was very unhealthy. And it had happened quickly, but steadily. So I didn't notice necessarily looking in the mirror. I had my mom bought my clothes at the time, so she had to have known it was buying me bigger sizes throughout the year.
Right.
But it was a huge eye opener to see that number on the scale, and I was so embarrassed by it. That's not who I was. It's not how I saw myself. So it was a big kind of wake up call. Like, all right, let's turn this ship around here. And fortunately, around that same time, I had really established a great group of friends, and that helped too. So I was already kind of on the upward trajectory of just getting more emotionally stable. And of course, the weight gain probably had something to do with hormonal changes at that time of my life. Being a young teenager, that had to have been a factor, I'm sure. But just emotionally, I was already starting to feel more like myself because I had made a lot of friends. And so that was helpful. But I signed up for a gym membership. By that point, I was 16, and there was a gym in town where you could be 16 and sign up yourself and go by yourself. So I did that, and I would go every day after school. And that's how I kind of got hooked on the gym scene of just, every day going to the gym and 30 minutes on the elliptical, walking on the treadmill. I kind of eased back into jogging. And I just loved it. There's something about it. That's who I am. I like being physically active. So fortunately, I know for some people who struggle with weight, making that first step is so hard to walk into the gym and not be embarrassed or feeling uncomfortable, not sure what to do. But it was consistency. I just went every day, and and I would try to stay a little bit longer on the elliptical or a little bit longer on the treadmill, something like that. I didn't do much weight training, obviously, but just getting on the cardio, that's what I needed at the time.
Right.
And so the weight just slowly started coming off. And again, I had a good group of friends, and family life has always been great. So emotionally, I was doing better. So I wasn't turning to food or junk food as often. And when you start getting really involved in the gym, naturally you kind of start paying attention to what you eat. So I started watching that more closely. And by the time I was in college, I'd say my sophomore year of college, I was down to a good, healthy weight finally. But I had shifted, instead of gaining the freshman 15 in college, I probably lost the freshman 15, but I got really unhealthy. I became obsessed with working out and obsessed with what I ate. And that mentality carried through well into my adult life after I got married. And it's hard not to. Like, I definitely struggled with some body dysmorphia, just going through that experience as a young girl. I was constantly aware of what I was eating, or self-conscious of what I looked like. If I gained a couple pounds, it was just, the end of the world. And there were times when I would track everything I ate and put it into MyFitnessPal and weigh myself every day, and it just became exhausting. And, of course, life continues on. And during this time, I met my husband and I got married. And I just bless his heart. He dealt with this crazy person, when she would rear her ugly head. And so, just, that vulnerability of just not being really happy or self-confident. But he stuck with me. And then, of course, we had my daughter. And when I was pregnant, I'm sure anybody who has experienced weight loss early in their life can relate to this. It was really hard to be pregnant and gain weight, even though that's what you're supposed to do. You're growing a human being. You're supposed to gain weight. That's how the deal works. But seeing the number on the scale go up probably was it's so unfortunate, but it really tainted that whole experience for me. And looking back on it, it makes me so sad to think that because I was so wrapped up in my weight and afraid of gaining weight and afraid of not being able to lose it after having her, I was miserable, and I was just an emotional basket case through my whole pregnancy about it. And even early on, you're so emotionally raw when you're pregnant anyway. And I was I was a mess. I just cried about it every day. And for the future, I definitely want to go into my next pregnancy, whenever that might be, aware that could happen again. I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to have a bad experience. When you're pregnant, it's supposed to be, joyful and exciting. Of course, it's hard, but you're supposed to be excited. And I couldn't even get excited about having a baby because I was so wrapped up in gaining the weight and feeling uncomfortable about how I looked. And that's just a terrible place to be at mentally. So definitely, like everything in life, you kind of like take these experiences and try and learn something from them, and so that the next experience can be better. And so I don't want that to be my experience again. And my daughter's 3 years old. I'm looking at her out the window right now, marching across the lawn, and I'm like, she's such a blessing in my life. And if I'm blessed to have more kids, I don't want them. I want to enjoy all of it from the very beginning, and pregnancy included. But I think what helped me finally get over that whole weight obsession, it was just so exhausting. And I reached a breaking point after having my daughter. Fortunately, I don't know, I was able to, I lost the weight really quick, and I was able to get back into the gym and running really quickly after having her. So that helped my
Yep,
mental
yep.
state a lot, thank God. But really, when I got into competitive running,
Mm-hmm.
I stopped feeling afraid of food or
Mm-hmm.
being obsessed with food, because my mind shift changed from, food is bad, food will make me gain weight, it's something to regulate, to it's something I need and it's something I have to consume, and I have to eat well to fuel my running, because I love to run and I want to do really well at it. I have some big goals. And the only way to reach those goals is by eating the right way and eating enough and not worrying about anything else.
Yep.
And so running really allowed my brain to shift, and, the ugly of fearfulness of food to go away finally. And it's
Yeah.
such a freeing experience. And, what a roller coaster to go through from early teenage years to now. I'm almost 30 years old, and I feel like I've lived two different lives.
Right,
And
right. Yeah.
like I know that there are women and men who go through weight challenges later in life, and part of it sucks that I had to go through it so early in my life. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I'm almost 30 years old, and I still have a really long, healthy life in front of me. And that's done. I can put it to bed and I can move on and
Mm-hmm.
not go back there to that
Right.
ugliness of weight, diet culture, obsession of
Mm-hmm.
food, that sort of thing. It's done. It's gone. I've closed that chapter of my life, and that's a good feeling too. So I'm grateful that I did have those experiences, and I think it's made me a more confident person overall, and just help. Now I just have such a healthier mindset towards body image, towards food. It's just not something I think about anymore. Maybe I turned my type A personality. I just shifted that over to running, but that's fine, because
Yep, yep.
at least it's so. I just feel nice to finally be free of that worry,
Yeah, yeah.
which is just yeah.
No, it's also running for the win again, right? For
Yeah,
competitive
exactly.
running.
And then yeah, and I know some people get into running for weight loss, which is
Right.
great. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely can help with that. But now I'm at a point where that's not even why I run. It's not even a
Right.
factor.
Right.
It's just because I really enjoy being competitive, and I have some big goals I'm working towards. So, and
Yeah.
that's what running is for me. I'm not pounding the pavement to lose a few pounds.
Right.
And,
Right. No, I love it. And I really love your perspective on that whole experience and, putting a positive spin, and then, the injury that you've had to deal with the past few months. And so that's really awesome. And it's going to be such a
yeah.
great role model for your daughter. So
Oh,
really
oh,
cool.
thanks. Yeah. It just, at the end of the day, we're just so busy. We don't have time for negative thoughts or the
Mm-hmm.
negativity in our lives. It just is
Mm-hmm.
wasted energy. We have so many other things to focus on, whether it's our family, our jobs, or, extracurricular activities or church, whatever that might be.
Yep.
There's so
Yep.
many other more important things to
Yep.
worry about, or, to fulfill our lives with. And the negativity, there's just no room for it. Just
I
sweep
totally
it
agree. Yep.
away.
Yep. Yep. I've had that revelation with a few things in my life recently. So definitely
Yeah,
second
yeah,
that.
something what you cannot change, you just, move on.
Yep, yep. Totally agree there. So now you have me thinking about something else, Alyssa, which is this fact that you got into competitive running, and that's actually been something that helped you improve your relationship with food, but that's not always the case. I know my first thought when I think about competitive running and food, I think about the girls I observed in my college years who went from looking healthy to becoming a little bit too skinny and probably having eating disorders. And I wasn't on the cross country or track teams for my college, so I don't really know what was going on there. And I don't want to throw my college under the bus, but that's kind of my first instinct when I think about competitive running and how it would relate to eating healthy is kind of a negative connotation there. So I don't know if you can share any insights into why getting into competitive running actually helped you improve your relationship with food, that maybe you had a book you read or someone you spoke to that could be a good resource for those of us who may be thinking about getting into competitive running but have a little bit of a fear based on what we've witnessed in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think there's a lot of elite athletes, like Ali Kiefer is one of them, who has just come out so against this this extreme dieting in our young high school and college girls, because you just have to look at the results. The top performers are not eating like birds; they're eating good, solid meals. And I would say Shalane Flanagan is another great example with her cookbook with Elise Kopecki. Like, they are really advocating for this really well-rounded diet. And otherwise, you're like staring down potential injuries and other health problems, and it's just not worth it at the end of the day. And I think it just is going to take time for that cultural shift.
Sure.
And there's a responsibility of the coaches. Absolutely. I mean, they're working with these young girls and young men too, and they're the example. And I hear stories of, them encouraging bad eating habits or eating little or losing weight to be the lightest you can be on race day. But in reality, a strong runner isn't necessarily a small or tiny runner. A good runner is strong, and they're only strong if they eat what their body needs.
Right.
So we're just so those, as when you're young like that, you're just so impressionable. So there really is a duty, I think, of the parents and of the coaches to really promote good eating habits, good healthy eating habits. Because you can't eat Doritos and Slurpees at 7-Eleven, right? If you want to be a good performer, but you certainly need to eat more than hot tea and saltine crackers.
Right.
So you have to find that healthy medium, and having a good diet is really important, but eating enough is equally as important.
Yep. No, I totally love that. And okay, now I have to ask one other question before we close, because you had shared in your bio that you fancy yourself a chef in the kitchen that we just talked about, or you mentioned Shalane Flanagan's book there. So are there any, like, do you have her book? Like, do you have any favorite recipes? I'm trying to work my way through that now. Or then just any things you love in general that you could share with us?
Yes, absolutely. I do have her cookbook, and I love it, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out. And I swear by eating red meat the night before a long run or a hard workout. For me personally, I struggle with keeping my iron levels in a good range, and I think a lot of women do struggle with that. And red meat is so great at getting those iron levels up. And so the night before a hard effort workout, your body's going to notice that difference. So one of my favorite recipes out of the Run Fast, Eat Slow cookbook is the bison burgers, the Greek bison burgers. Those are so good, and I can, my husband likes them too, which is good. And my daughter too. If I can please those two, then we're all good. But that's probably my absolute favorite recipe out of that cookbook. And I do like the Can't Beat Me smoothie. That's always nice and refreshing after a long hot run here where I live. It's 80 degrees in the morning in the summer when we're running. So coming home to that's nice. But I would say don't shy away from the red meat or the full fat yogurt or those types of foods that were kind of labeled bad, like egg yolks, like eat the whole egg and just really focus on nutrient dense foods and lots of vegetables, and your body will thank you, or you'll see really big improvements in just your overall health and then your performance too. That's been my experience.
No, I definitely agree. And I've had to learn that, slowly myself too from my own journey. But also, when you talk to a registered dietitian, there's vitamins and things that are fat soluble. So if you're not getting enough fats, you can't take in that nutrition, right? So it's really important that you might not have ever thought that before, but that's how our bodies work, right? So
yeah, exactly. We're built to be omnivores. So
yep.
It makes sense that we kind of need a little bit of everything.
And I have to say, for people thinking about checking out Shalane Flanagan's cookbook there and the beet smoothie, I only recently started finding beets enjoyable in general, they have to be cooked right. There's a special way to do it. You have to roast them, and not everyone can do it right. But wasn't so sure what I would think about the smoothie because I'm not really a big smoothie person in general. But I've tried that smoothie, and I'm craving it right now talking about it. It's definitely very beet focused. There's no way getting around that. But
Yeah.
it's still very satisfying. And so I definitely encourage people to try it. Obviously, it's not going to be like a super sweet, like, what you might make, but it probably will help you running and you might crave
A little earthy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so funny. We have a couple folks in our running group who are just like, we're all about the beets. Whether or not like that actually makes a difference. They talk about beets improving your ability to take up oxygen. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but hey, they are good for you. So we kind of have this running joke that, did you get your beet smoothie in this morning or last night?
Yep. No, I love that. And I mean, hey, if nothing else, like we said, running is a lot of mental, pieces, and there's the placebo effect. So I feel like it's going to help in some way anyways, right? If we believe in it.
Yeah, if you think it works, then it works.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for hanging out a second time and sharing more of your story. And I know it's going to definitely inspire some people that are listening and that have like a similar, story. Maybe they haven't gotten to the Olympic marathon trial training yet, but maybe one day they will, or at least maybe try to get it, which I think is really helpful. So
yeah, well, I sure hope that somebody finds some inspiration or motivation in listening to my story. That if you really can do anything that you want to do and you put your mind to, the only barrier is yourself. So just gotta overcome it and move on and think positive.
Love that. Well, thanks again, and maybe we'll have to have you on again. Getting closer to Atlanta.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.